My topic is ecotourism in the Amazon rainforests. First off, let's define what ecotourism is. It's generally defined as responsible travel and it is used throughout ecosystems throughout the entire world, and it is generally centered towards endangered or critically affected areas. And the Amazon rainforest is endangered or critically affected areas because of many reasons, such as pollution, overhunting, habitat destruction, but the most detrimental of all is deforestation. Deforestation affects many species in the rainforest, one being the owl monkey, which I will center my project around, along with the term ecotourism. Now, this project will dive into my evaluation in the learning goals 1.5, 2.4, 4.1, 4.3, and 4.5. And I'll use the first two learning goals to give context about the species and introduce the species of the owl monkey. So in learning goal 2.4, I'll explain how the monkeys evolved to inhabit the trees of the Amazon rainforest. The very first New World monkeys were introduced to the earth around 34 million years ago in Africa. It is assumed by scientists that the monkeys rafted, or in other words, migrated from the coast of Africa to South America, noting that the distance between the continents was significantly smaller, as seen on this map. Due to natural selection, the monkeys began to evolve more capable tails in order to cope with the tropical biomes in South America. The trees in South America have lots of vines running through them, so in order for the monkeys to maneuver through them efficiently, they needed more useful tails, and this is the reason for the monkeys living in the Amazon rainforest at this moment, including the owl monkey. And so basically, the monkeys that are in, if you compare a monkey from South America to a monkey from Asia, the tails are much more different, and the tails from the monkeys in South America are much more complex and useful than the tails of the monkeys in Asia. And kind of going backwards, in learning goal 1.5, I'll explain the mechanics within the monkey's tail. Now, a tail can be classified as a class 2 lever because the effort of the tail is at the very beginning. The effort or the pivot of the tail is at the very beginning, close to the connection of the rear of the monkey, and the effort and the load are in, its respective places. And this allows for easier transportation for the monkey, given that there is an extra support limb accessible to the monkey, along with 2 arms and legs that it already has. This shows that the force out and distance out of the tail has to be large, and the force in and the distance in has to be very small because it is basically right in front of the force in, and the force in has to be extremely large compared to all the other forces and distances. And this shows that the muscles in the monkey's tail are very strong, based almost as strong as an arm or leg muscle that the monkey has. So now that I've introduced the species, I want to circle back to my main point in proving how deforestation affects these monkeys and how ecotourism can help it. In learning goal 4.1, I used charts and climatograms to analyze the state of the habitat. This climatogram here shows the state of the climate in this certain area of the forest, an area that is densely inhabited by owl monkeys. There's also a significant amount of rainfall in the winter and spring months, ranging from 300 milliliters to around 150. But there's little to no rainfall for the rest of the year.
We can infer from this data that the forest at this point is receiving an adequate amount of rainfall, enough to sustain, at least enough to sustain the species inhabiting it. Now let's take a look at this deforestation map. If we match up our pictures, we can conclude that a part of the owl monkey population resides in the area where habitat destruction and deforestation is taking place. Ecotourism can help this. This is where ecotourism comes into play. Ecotourism can help this significantly. Preservation of trees would arise, and already have, from people seeing these habitats completely wiped out, and the homes for not only owl monkeys but thousands of other species would have a chance to be saved because of the people that would come and see things like this. And now in Learning Goal 4.3, I examine the population density respective to the owl monkeys in the rainforest. This map shows that the monkeys are exhibiting a mix between a uniform and random population dispersion. And as I stated before, habitat destruction is taking place in the homes of lots of owl monkeys. This is seen as a density independent factor, but then leads into a density dependent factor. Because when the homes of the monkeys are destroyed, they're forced to move into other habitats. This causes the density of those habitats to rise, therefore increasing competition against other species and battle for natural resources. This is also where ecotourism can come into play. If these habitats are exposed to the public, in a conservative way, of course, with the right amount of evidence presented to the average tourist, awareness of these over competitive habitats can be displayed, maybe even helped. And my last learning goal, 4.5, I will talk about more human impacts on the Amazon rainforest. Not only does the rainforest suffer from human deforestation, but also overhunting, logging, pollution. An interesting thing about deforestation is that its effects run deeper than just destroying homes. Greenhouse gases are produced from it, which results from an annual loss of 54 billion tons of carbon. This then causes a rise in air pollution. This is a prime example of why ecotourism can be really helpful in this habitat, because people can observe firsthand the detrimental effects of all the human impacts. And if this is taken into account, like in other endangered ecosystems, acts and petitions can be passed in order to prevent further destruction, which will then lead to benefits in multiple other factors. Okay. Conclusively, we learned that owl monkeys evolved from early primates and migrated to South America, and we also learned about the mechanics of their limbs and how they operate in the Amazon rainforest. And we also learned that ecotourism can help protect endangered species and help prevent deforestation, along with multiple other impacts.